here we are with season 3, episode 6 with Tiffany Kairos, who, as we like to say, is the epilepsy advocate queen.
Yes, definitely check out her Instagram. That's where we initially saw her, and she just posts these hilarious and accurate videos on there that are so perfect. I mean, she really hits home on a lot of stuff.
A lot of nuances and shit like that. You know that like. I'm like, oh, that is true. And I don't think to like put a thought to it, you know, and it's so funny. And I'm just like, I wish I could just like, I feel like if I could send all of her reels to people, I'd be like, now you've learned about epilepsy. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's just so awesome and has been like, I don't know, a source of comfort in that way too. I know me and a lot of people. So check her stuff out. We've got all of her links like to your Instagram, to our website, all that stuff in our podcast description below. And really, like, I think what the most amazing thing about our conversation with Tiffany was just learning about what it's like when epilepsy comes after you got married. You know, it's like you didn't sign up for this and what happens now kind of thing. Because you and I have met a lot of people who it didn't turn out the way it turned out for Tiffany and her husband.
Exactly.
Together. Yeah.
We haven't walked down the aisle yet. So,
well, that too. Yeah.
We haven't even touched that part of that. But yeah, it was really fascinating hearing how she handled it head on. She did not, shy away from it, which a lot of people do, understandably. And she was just like, hey, this is what my life looks like. Are you here for it?
Yeah.
So definitely take a listen.
I feel like so many times marriage is very private. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just appreciate her sharing like these tough conversations they had in marriage to kind of, I don't know, just be a light, a beacon for the rest of us. So
teach us how to be even more vulnerable.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I think you guys are really going to love this convo. And now we've got our fan and fave of the week before we send you off into the Tiffany world.
Our fan of the week this week is it was a DM that we got, and we're going to keep their name private because it was very personal. But we definitely wanted to share the message with you guys.
Yeah. So this message just really hits home. I just wanted to say that I've only just discovered this podcast while going through another medication change and feeling very frustrated with my brain. And I have never felt so understood and seen. I am laughing and crying so much, though I only listened to 2 episodes so far, but it feels like the healing I needed. And I am truly so thankful for you both. Can't wait to catch up on all the episodes I missed. Thank you so much for this very, very kind DM. Yeah, and I think Lexi and I both understand the frustration with your brain going through med changes. Yeah, so
that's why we're here.
Yeah.
If it was easy, we'd be like, okay, what else can we, make a podcast about? But
totally.
Yeah.
So we hope things are going better for you. You know who you are, and sending all the good vibes. And then our fave of the week is Christopher'sBakery.com. Definitely recommend checking them out. This is sadly came about because Christopher passed away after a seizure as a child, and his brother created this bakery to honor him. A percentage of the proceeds go to the Neurelis Children's Hospital for epilepsy research. I have not myself had anything from Christopher's Bakery, but I have heard like word spreads. This place is supposed to be so good. So I'm like waiting until the holidays to order something to treat myself, So, yeah, check it out. Link also in the description below.
We also want to, as always, thank our sponsors. You guys know they're like our family. Yep. We love you guys so much. SK Life and Neurelis wouldn't be here without you. And I mean, they believed in us when we were just starting off, and now we're in season 3, and we love you guys. Yes. Can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, here you go. Hey guys, welcome to What the F. We are here today with Tiffany Kairos, who is basically an epilepsy advocate everywhere. Like, if you're on any type of social media, you see Tiffany Kairos. I know Tiffany, you've definitely been a resource to me. But not only that, she also is the founder of Rise Above Blogger and the Epilepsy Network, which both things, all that stuff we'll get into later. But hi, Tiffany. It's so awesome to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Welcome to What the F. We are just so stoked to, dive right in and kind of hear how epilepsy started in your life and then how it got you to where you are today. So go. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm in. Yeah, so I was 16 years old and I had gone to bed. It was just your average night. And I woke up and I was on a gurney being taken down the stairs. I had two paramedics on either side of me. I was dazed and confused. And I had one of the paramedics ask me if I had taken any drugs. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this has got to be a bad dream, right? Like, what the heck is going
Wow.
on?
Yeah.
And they loaded me up into the ambulance, took me to the hospital, and said that I had a seizure. And I'm thinking to
Wow.
myself, what the heck is a seizure? Like, what is this? I mean, all I know is I'm confused. One minute I'm in bed at 16 worrying about a history test the next day. The next minute I'm lying in a hospital bed
Yeah.
with a massive headache.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lexi, with your first seizure, did they ask you about drugs?
No, I don't remember. I mean,
I'm just
mine came
curious
on at
because I
yeah,
got
mine
that.
came on at 16 as well, but mine were complex partials, so they weren't as, I didn't get the whole hospital experience until I was 18 in college.
Mm.
But they probably did ask me. It was one of those things where my mom, we call her Doc Mom, had already
Yeah, she's Doc
spoken
Mom.
to the doctor by the time I talked to the ER doc, and he was like, "Yep, I got your history." And I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Right.
And which is typical now. Mom always talks to them before I do, but after a seizure, you're just like kind of you feel like you're watching everything in slow motion and everything else is
Totally.
moving way too fast, especially when you're in the
Yes.
hospital and you're like, "Oh
Mm.
my God, what you're asking me what question and what question?" And I like just give me a minute. But
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
I mean, you're just trying to,
Yeah.
like, figure out what the hell even happened, and then
Right.
go from there.
Yeah,
It
my
just
I
seemed like a
I
bad
woke up to not woke up, but came to with 8 cops, firemen, EMTs in my apartment because
Oh my gosh.
my mom had called 911 from Michigan. So
Oh my gosh.
and they're like doing a drug search and I'm in my like really fancy Old Navy
Oh
pajamas,
my
like
god.
please, like in no bra, just like what is going
Oh
on,
no.
and they're like
Oh.
you're going, you know, and I don't think they found any there are no drugs to find, but like,
Mhm.
nothing too suspicious to look around, but they're like, you're going to the hospital. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. And they're like, no, you're
Oh,
going. And
wow.
then next thing I knew was, yeah,
Oh.
on the gurney.
Yeah, I have no
Mm.
recollection of how I even got to the hospital or anything. I was just like I showed up and I'm like, "Why am I in my PJs and in the hospital room?
Uh,
What's going on?" I
Yeah.
was with my
yeah.
college roommate at the time, and I was just like, "What?" And I, just kinda like, fell silent, and I'm like, "What is this? I don't know what's going on.
I know, it's the
Why am I
craziest
here? What I do?"
experience.
It
I
is, yeah.
know.
By then, they were like we knew I had epilepsy, so they were like, "Yep, right, right, right." And I was like,
Mm.
"Okay, cool. Here's these drugs, go home."
Oh my
But,
gosh.
yeah, pretty much,
So
but
what happened, from your experience, Tiffany? You got to the hospital, you're like, I have this headache. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, so they ran a bunch of tests. I had no other health problems at all. So I was, just so confused as to why, and they couldn't figure out why. They put me on medication for about 6 months. I
Okay.
had no seizure within that time span. So they took me off of that medicine, given the fact that I was not having any seizures.
Yeah.
And so I continued on with life, finished out my teenage years. And then at 22, I got married. And,
Wow.
that was, yeah, I found the love of my life.
Oh, how'd you meet him?
I went to an outdoor concert and I met his mother and younger brother and younger sister.
You got that out of the way quick.
I know. She she invited me to sit down with her, and I was thinking, "Wow, this is random, but she seems so sweet." So I sat with her and we all watched the concert together. And I was, telling her about how I was just having a difficult time finding a really nice man. And she said, "Well, I have a son." And I'm thinking, "Oh goodness, he's going to be so mad." Because she was giving me his phone
Totally.
number and his
Oh,
social
Oh,
media
I
contact.
know.
Oh,
Whenever people do that, it's kind of like shit, shit, shit. I don't know
yeah.
what I'm getting into.
I
They think
know.
they're like he's the perfect person in the world. I'm like, I don't know that yet. Oh my god.
I know. And then my grandfather passed away, who I looked at as a
Oh,
father. And
I'm
I
so
called
sorry.
her for emotional support because she was so sweet. And he
Oh.
happened to be there. And she gave him the phone.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
Oh
And he was
my
like, "Mom."
gosh.
And we
That's
hit we hit it off.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is
oh.
so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Needless
Okay,
to
so you
say, I met the parents first.
That's hilarious.
you got
Oh my
the
god.
in-law feel first, which isn't the worst thing
I
in the world,
did.
you know?
I
Yeah.
loved her. I loved her.
Yeah, and then you knew right away your in-laws were gonna be cool, so,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
maybe that should be a new dating app, like in-laws first.
Oh my god.
In-laws first.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
so you get married at 22,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then what happens?
Yeah, 4 months passed by, and I hopped in the car in the morning, December, and I was driving to go get Christmas presents. And just out of nowhere, my muscles just went limp, and my
Oh,
vision just
yeah.
starts to fade into black. And I had a millisecond just to turn my wheel away from traffic, and I blacked out. Then the next thing I know, I'm being loaded up into an ambulance again. I had gone through 2 front yards, over a curb, and crashed into a tree.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you injured at all?
Luckily,
It's very
That's
intense on so
insane.
many levels because it's like, a
Yeah.
car
mm,
crash is intense to begin with, but then add a seizure on top of it. And
oh
yeah.
my gosh, yes.
Mhm. Man. So you
Wow.
go to the hospital and what do they tell
Yeah.
you?
They called my husband. I was dazed and confused. They called my husband and they told him, to meet me at the hospital, that I was still breathing. That was just the gist of it. And he was scared to death.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, I
Oh,
know. I know. What a way to tell
yeah.
your,
Yeah.
husband, that she's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Jeez.
So, yeah, they ran a bunch of tests and determined that it was a seizure. Given the fact that it was my second seizure, I was officially diagnosed with epilepsy. So I was put on medication again. I was having seizures back to back after that. The medication wasn't helping at all. I tried to continue working, but it was becoming very risky because I was having seizures on the job. So I had to stop working.
Oh,
And
I'm
yeah,
so
that,
sorry.
left my
Yeah.
husband. It's okay. I just, I had to do what was best, for my
Yeah.
health and safety.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It just
Yeah,
sometimes, why does sometimes that suck so much to do things that are good
I
for
know.
you, you know?
Right. It's a hard pill to
I
swallow.
know.
You're like,
Yeah, it
I have this
is.
chronic illness, but I still want to be working. But the chronic illness is saying, no,
Yeah.
it's not
Nah,
a good time for
mm,
you.
Yeah.
I know. I want you to be home.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you're like, "I don't wanna be home and in bed." No,
And I'm a
but
people person. I like to talk to people. I like to be around people. And
same.
it's like, it's not
Right.
fair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that left my husband to be the, sole, provider, financial provider. And then it was hard for the both of us because he had to take care of me, should I have a seizure at home alone. So he
Mm.
had to quit his
Yeah.
job because he had to go back and
Wow.
forth, taking me to the doctor, for appointments and making sure I was okay. And we lost our first home.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my
jeez,
gosh. That is just
man.
that's
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say except that's a lot. It's just so much. Like I just how
Yeah.
Mhm.
so what did you do?
Well, thank God his mom, my mother-in-law was so gracious that she,
Well, we already know is
allowed,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, let us
From
stay with her until we get back on our feet.
that's great.
And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was just still trying to get adjusted to the fact that I have a chronic illness that I can't
Ugh.
really stop.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
And
predict or
or
control or
predict.
yeah. How did this affect your relationship with your husband? Just because like it's just so many things, happening like
Mhm.
all, you
Mm.
know. What did
Yeah.
that look like for you two?
I was struggling with so many different emotions, confusion,
Yeah.
being scared, depressed, and I would let my husband know candidly, like, look, this is a lot of work. I don't blame you if you want to leave. I wouldn't be mad at you. I wouldn't hate you. But he was determined to fight this with me, to get through this together. And that really just got, emotionally touching to me because his willingness to stay with me through it all, despite how hard this could be,
Mhm.
I'd never met anybody like that in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
I love
we
hearing
just
that.
grew closer.
Wow.
Man, dream
Wow.
partner right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. 'Cause I know Lexi and I both have talked to people who have a different story and where
Oh, yeah.
epilepsy
Mm.
drove marriages apart, and I think
Mhm.
it's something that we all think about while we're dating or in any relationship. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is too much for you,
Right.
Yeah.
You feel
you
that
know?
guilt. You're like, "I'm sorry I'm, like,
Yeah,
doing this to you, but
Yeah.
it's not your decision," but it's a
totally.
Right.
weird feeling.
We knew it was gonna be one heck of a ride, and it was going to
Hmm.
be scary and frustrating for the both of us, but we were not going to let it drive us apart.
Landis and I like to talk about how it's kind of like a good screener. Like, a lot of stuff like this,
Yes.
more serious health issues happens later in life,
Mhm. Mhm.
and people are more accepting of it later in life, but when it happens early in life, for some reason, it's just harder, to wrap your head around it and, like, deal with it, especially, like, as
Right.
a couple, and so if you got one who's willing to do it in his early 20s, man,
I know,
I
it's like,
mean,
"Let's just give you a little test right out the gate, see how you do.
just a
See how
little
you
test. He's
do."
like, "I'm gonna throw this at you, and we'll see how you do," and good, you
Yeah, yeah.
passed. Flying colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Well, and
amazing.
my boyfriend told me that he does get asked quite frequently, like when he's like, "Yeah, like if it ever comes up that I have epilepsy, people are like, so how how do you deal with that? Are you okay with that? Like, is that a thing?" And I'm like,
No, man, yeah, the "Are you okay with that?"
like I'm just like, okay, so this
Right.
like basically validates every fear I've ever had. And also
Mhm.
Yeah,
any
yeah.
friends asking you that are shit, man. Like, like dump those
Oh my
friends.
god. Yeah,
I
just ask,
know.
"What's that experience like?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
A
yeah.
lot of times,
Oh,
people will ask, like, "Are you scared when you see her have a seizure?" And it's like, I'm
yeah.
just like, answer candidly, tell them, like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's freaking scary." Of course it
Totally.
is. I mean, it's not something to run away or anything, but it's real. That's reality. but you gotta take care of people when they have a seizure, and, you know it's he stood by me, he takes care of me, and
Oh,
I love that beauty
yeah.
that, you're acknowledging both. It's like, yes, it's scary, but yes, he's here and he will stay here. It's like,
Mhm.
yes, it does,
Mm.
both those things coexist. And that's just kind of what it
Right.
is, which is,
yeah.
Yeah.
it's just awesome to be real, but also, have someone so supportive of, what you're
Right.
going through.
I'm always telling him, how grateful I am and how blessed I feel, and just I just we're about to celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary in August, and
Ah,
it's just like
Oh,
yeah.
well, Tiffany, he's
So
man.
he's a
it's
lucky guy too.
amazing.
You're pretty fucking awesome. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure
I'm
he
sure he
knows
knows
that
if
too.
anything happens, he's also
Thank
set.
you. You guys
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I understand too, just from previous conversations we've had, that you two decided on whether or not to have children.
It's a touchy subject, especially when you throw in a chronic illness. Then it's like, how the
Yeah.
hell do you do it? And I mean, you guys probably get this all the time. People ask, especially partners, can you have kids?
Oh,
Well,
Is
God.
it
It's
yeah.
is it
like
even
they're womb
possible?
shopping. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And I know I've gotten that early on so many times.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, explain your experience with that because neither of us have had kids yet, but it's just
Mm.
definitely something that's present in our lives for sure.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was like a punch to the gut because
Yeah.
I have friends who I see having children and, who are well, and that was tough. But I would have conversations with my doctor, with Chris, and say, maybe there's a way that we can work this out. But in having these conversations with the doctor, we came to learn that with the severity of my seizures and the amount of medication that I was taking, it could be risky.
Mhm.
So I thought to myself, I don't know if this is a wise idea to
Mhm.
try and conceive a child. And
Yeah.
so, after some thinking, Chris and I both decided that maybe it's just not the right time for us. Maybe this is not something that is something we want to attempt.
Sure.
And that's okay. Not everybody
Yeah.
is available to become parents in that way, but you can always be a parent in a different way. There are so many other ways you can be a parent.
Mhm.
And
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
It's not,
Yeah. You seem
yeah.
like you've really come to terms with it. I mean,
Mm.
in a very peaceful way.
I had to go through a grieving process, of course. That
Wow.
was hard. That was very hard when I learned that it's something that I had to just go through.
Was that hard with your relationship with epilepsy? Did it
Mm.
like make you mad at it or, just the situation at all?
Well, no, I mean, I just felt really sad that my body was just not allowing me to be able to do that. But I just, didn't want to be, again, a disappointment or anything to Chris.
Sure.
And again, he
Yeah.
said, regardless if we have children, no matter what, it's you and me. It's you and me.
I love
Wow.
this guy,
I love
man.
Chris.
Yeah, he just he ticks all the boxes, does
100% to a child. And if we want to do that, I would want to give 100%, no
Yeah.
less.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you said like there's so many ways to be parents and this is one of them.
Oh yeah, you can be an aunt.
Oh,
Yay.
yeah.
Being an aunt is
Yeah,
fun.
And I
and
have
you
2
really do.
kitties.
You really do
Aw.
give 100% to, like, your advocacy, and you are
Yes.
constantly all your videos on Instagram make me so happy. They're
Yep.
just, like, the cutest little things, and they're so spot on to,
Yep.
you know, things that
100%.
happen with epilepsy, and I'm just like, "Yep." She's got that one. Yep.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yep.
So you do give your all.
Oh,
And
thank you.
and
I try.
well, and that's how it's just so mind-boggling that we are here doing this right now for me, because a few years ago, maybe probably like 3 years ago or so, when things were still uncontrolled and just seizures like all the time, I would go on Twitter and just do like hashtag seizures or hashtag epilepsy just to find community. Just because I had no community, I didn't know anyone with epilepsy, and just kind of, and your Twitter account would always pop up, and I'd always get comfort from reading whatever your tweet was, but it was like Lexi said, it's always so spot on. And then like all the comments below, and it was like, you have done such an amazing job of creating community. And I think there's so many people out there who, like, because I never said anything. I never had the courage to say anything on Twitter. Like back in the day, I was just like,
Mhm.
I'm afraid to say I have epilepsy or seizures or anything. But just I'd get
Mhm.
comfort from reading what you wrote, or reading what the comments were to what you wrote. And I just
Mm.
wonder, like, I'm like, there's so many people out there, no matter what platform it is,
Mm.
that you are reaching. And I just think that's so incredible, and would love to talk more about the Epilepsy Network and Rise Above, and how, like,
Yeah.
what inspired you to get involved in epilepsy advocacy, because what you do is really, truly very powerful.
Oh, well, thank you. And you said it there, when after I was diagnosed with epilepsy, I was given a teeny pamphlet of what epilepsy is and what seizures are, and was
Mm.
just told where to go to get support. I
Mhm.
wasn't told that there were online support groups and
Right.
things of that sort. And so I felt
Sure.
so alone. I didn't know anybody that had
Yes.
epilepsy or had even experienced a seizure in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I had these emotions and feelings inside I had to shove down because I didn't, I felt just all kinds of crazy feelings.
So many people I talk to are like, yeah, and then you have a symptom that makes you feel crazy, and you're like, that can't be real.
Mm,
It's just like, I feel like we hear this a lot from
yeah.
the community.
Mhm. So, of course, Chris and I, we just Googled it up. Dr. Google just did a bunch of research to try and find out how to manage it, how to cure it. We thought that, maybe there's a cure
Yeah.
because, again, the doctor didn't tell me there was a cure or if there's anything like that. I mean, I was given very little information. So,
Mhm.
within my research, I went on Facebook and I found online support groups, and wow, was that
Yeah,
amazing. Wow, is that
totally.
incredible. Just so much
100%.
support I was seeing amongst one another, and then I was embraced with so much support from patients and caregivers, and
Yeah,
that was so inspiring to me because I was really, given what I needed to better understand myself and better understand epilepsy, and I wanted to do the
totally.
very same thing. I wanted to
Yeah.
help others. So, about 2 years later after my diagnosis, that was in 2008, 2011, Chris and I decided to create the Epilepsy Network, which was an online support group on Facebook. Him
Okay.
being the graphic designer, he did the
Wow.
back end stuff, created the
Awesome.
images, and I was on the front, just trying to gather the community and just
Yeah.
provide support and education and awareness. And I
Mhm.
just gave it my all. I just,
That
tried to, yeah, well, I did. I went to every social media platform and went to
that's
connect with
awesome.
everybody that I could.
Your website has so many resources too. Both of your websites, the Rise Above and Epilepsy Network, will be in the episode description. But I'm just so, I just can't even imagine how many people's lives you've changed. Like, it has to just be, I, I don't even know. I don't do numbers, so I can't imagine. But it's just like, it's just very confounding. Like, it's crazy. And it's very inspiring too.
It touches my heart. It really does because, with me having those feelings in the beginning, receiving that response was just so beautiful and
Yeah.
meaningful to me.
Totally.
And
Mhm.
I'm so happy that I could provide, that support for others and bring people together.
Yeah. I know. Well,
Yeah.
that's the important thing, right? Is like finding a
Mhm.
community even if you can't leave your home, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Exactly. I figured, well, if I'm gonna be home, I'm gonna do something good.
oh, that's so
Yeah.
awesome. And tell us about Rise Above.
Oh, yes. So I wanted to tell my story. I was a little nervous at first because I didn't really know how to approach telling my story at first, but I just dove right in and I just wanted to just tell it the best way I knew how.
Mhm.
And I was very amazed at the response that I received when I did so. And then I continued forth with talking about it more, sharing
Yeah.
experiences that I encountered and advice that I could from based off of experiences, personal experiences, and the research that I had personally done. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
hopefully it would help someone maybe who was starting on their journey or who maybe had questions of their own,
Totally.
like I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Like, cause the pamphlet didn't answer all of them. So,
No,
No.
no. And the
um,
fact too is, I try to be candid because there's a lot of topics that people are a little bit nervous to talk about, and
mhm.
I try and go there. I go there.
That's why I
Yes.
love all of your Insta stuff.
Yep. You
Thank
absolutely go
you.
there. Absolutely go
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you feel like is the most common qualm or insecurity or question that you receive or,
Mm.
direction that people are looking for? What do you feel like is like 'cause there's a lot of common threads in our community, but
Mm.
I'm just curious as to what you've observed.
A lot of times I hear about relationships, how epilepsy impacts relationships in different aspects, whether
Yeah.
it be from a woman's perspective, from, relationally and just dating and, marriages, all
Yeah.
kinds of ways.
Yeah, totally. That seems to
Mhm.
be very common.
Yeah.
Mm,
Just the whole like, what do I do and how do I handle this and when do I
yeah.
tell a
Mhm.
person? And
Yeah, the when do I tell a person comes up
When do
all the time.
yeah,
Uh-huh, mhm.
yeah,
And I can't really it's tough, because 'cause I'm married, but I remember telling Chris, after we were married, I had my first seizure at 16, I wanted him to know that, so that was before I was diagnosed as because we wanted to learn about each other.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, he knew that, he just didn't
Mhm.
know that I was gonna have that second seizure.
Right.
Yeah. It always is really because it's not it's a complex thing to describe to people. It's not like,
Yes.
"Hey, I have this and it's cut and dry. It's gone
Mm,
forever. It's here
Right.
forever." It waxes and wanes over,
yeah.
your lifetime. And so to describe to someone not only who's newly diagnosed, but to describe to someone who's, in a relationship with someone
Mm.
who's, has epilepsy, it's just it's you kinda have to sit him down and be like, "Well, how much do you wanna know? Because this could take a while." So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of just, like, have to walk through, "Here's where I'm at, here's the potential of where it could go. Could
Right.
go,
Mhm.
bad or it could go good,
Mm.
but that's where I'm at, and I can't
Yeah.
change anything about it."
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it is complicated to tell
It
people
Yeah,
is.
about.
every person's different, every relationship is different. I mean,
Mhm.
I know that, we can tell each other everything and know that everything's gonna be okay. So
That's what we all need.
yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's really awesome. That's so
Mhm.
awesome. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today. This has just been an amazing conversation. Truly amazing for me because I just keep picturing myself on the couch like post-ictal just like out days after a seizure just reading your tweets and I'm like, "And now I'm here?"
Aw.
Like this is crazy. So, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Oh, my
And we'll see
pleasure.
Mhm, we do.
we'll see you
Thank you for
guys next
having
week.
me.
You bet.